Hey everybody, this is Rupert for Fast as Funk. Today I'm going to show you a repair to the Linksys WAP54G wireless access point. This is a very well regarded access point. It's an old model now, it's discontinued. Here I've got a V2 model, but they're extremely robust, extremely good performance and very flexible. You can install your own firmware on there and make a whole bunch of modifications. But this is a common problem that you'll see with these units, both the earlier V1 models and the later ones. You get this whole floppy antenna syndrome where the nut comes loose here. The problem is that a lot of people, they'll simply tighten up the nut here until the antenna gets locked on again and can remain vertical. But if it's been loose for a while, or this socket has been rotated a few times, then it can actually break the wire inside to the antenna. And you don't know. All that happens is the Linksys access point continues to operate as normal, but of course your range and your performance will be reduced because effectively it's only working on the good antenna, not the one with the broken cable. So I'm going to show you how to A, open up the access point, and B, how to effect the repair. So the first thing we do is we need to remove the antennas from the back. So just hold the nut down here and unscrew the antenna. There we go. Again, you can see here I've got the 9 dBi high gain antennas installed on this, which actually exacerbates the problem because they're a fair bit heavier than the standard antennas, so they tend to flop around a little more. So we've got both the antennas removed. Let's put these out of the way. The next thing to do, flip over the access point, and you can see here that I've already removed the rubber feet because I actually wall mount this unit. Under the front two rubber feet, which is where the blue plastic is, you can see there are two screws, and you need to take these out. So use a standard Phillips screwdriver, undo these two screws, just a couple of small self tappers, very easy to lift out. So we'll take these, there we go, take these screws out. This one's a little stuck. There we go. I'll just put those to one side so I don't lose them. And this is the slightly tricky point. There are actually a couple of clips holding the blue plastic to the grey plastic on either side of the unit, and you just got to kind of push this in. It's very solid, but you just got to push it and use a bit of brute force to separate the thing. There's actually nothing connected to the front of the unit in the blue plastic. All the connections are made at the back. So even if you break this away with quite a bit of force, you shouldn't damage anything. But equally, usual caveats apply when you disassemble this thing. It's entirely at your own risk, and of course it's going to void any Linksys warranty that you might have on it. But generally speaking, these units are pretty old now. You can pick up second-hand one just for a few dollars. So it's no big deal if you do bust a case or something. So it's a case of simply grabbing it and wrenching it apart as best as you can. There we go. Okay, so the front has separated from the back, and you can see just here the two clips. So you've got to push it in a little bit to get it to undo, but it's come away. And as you can see right away, this is the antenna wire. You can probably see down inside the unit there to this right hand antenna. It's actually broken away. If I take away the back part, you can see it's all held together. So we've got the main PCB, which is screwed to the grey plastic base. One antenna, which is the left antenna as you view the unit from the front, is still connected to the PCB. This one, because it's been rotated around and around and around as you try and screw the antenna back on, has simply broken away. So what we're going to need to do is refix this back down onto the PCB down here. You can see, don't know if you can see there where it's broken away. We need to fix it back on there with a soldering iron. And it looks actually like it's just a single connection, a single wire connection, but this cable is in fact coaxial cable. which means that it has a center core connection, a center core wire, some insulator, and then an outer braid, which effectively makes two different connections. And down here on the board there are actually two separate connections, one for the center core and another one for the braid. So we've got to be reasonably careful when we solder this back together to make sure that we don't jump the two connections together, cause a short circuit, and that'll probably end up overloading or damaging the transmitter unit. So we need to avoid that. So the next thing to do is get out the soldering iron. Okay, I removed the antenna socket and cable from the back plate of the housing just to make it a little easier to keep it in position when I make the solder. The connections right here for the second antenna don't look to be damaged, it's just pulled away from the board, so it should be a reasonably simple job to resolder this back in place. So I'm going to take the cable. That's where it gets a little tricky because you've got to hold it nice and steady. Just going to hold that right on here, with a similar orientation to how it was originally, and I'm just going to use a standard hobby grade 25 watt soldering iron to put this back in place. I'm hoping that there's enough solder already on the board to make the connection. If not, can always add some more. So first of all, I'm just going to reset the connection to the outer braid. This is the larger of the two connections, and it should help just to hold the cable to the board for me to make the second connection. So there we go, just being careful not to transmit too much heat into the board. There we go. So now the outer braid of the coax, the outer connection, is sat on there. It's a pretty good connection. I'm just going to add a little bit more solder to tighten it up. And again, just standard hobby solder here, nothing special at all. There we go. So that's done. And the next step is just to pin the internal single wire of the coax to the second of the two connectors. And this one's pretty small, so you've got to be a little bit more careful here. If you're not great with a soldering iron, I recommend that you practice with something else, maybe not your access point to start off with. There we go. And the connection's made. So our antenna is now reconnected to the transmitter receiver board. Okay, with our connections remade, it's now just a case of reassembling. Take the antenna socket that I removed, put it back through the back of the case, and much like many of these things, the assembly is the complete reverse of the disassembly. Nothing special to be done. You put on the rubber grommet and all of the other nuts, and then we carefully start to tighten it down. I want to be careful at this stage that we don't start to twist it and cause the same problem that damaged the antenna in the first place. So we just put it down, hold it on the inside, tighten it up. I'm just going to do it finger tight, but you can use a couple of pairs of pliers to do this if you want a tighter connection. I've got a grip like a gorilla, so no problems there. And then again, carefully reassemble the board back into the top part of the housing. Just sits right in there, just like that. You can see that the LAN connection, the reset pin, and the power sockets are all nicely seated in the back of the case. And then turn it over, put the front back on, and just to get these clips to seat, give it a push on either side. There we go. The case is now back together. And finally, we put in the 2 screws that we took out from the blue feet at the front. Couple of self-tappers. Pretty easy to put these in. There's one. There's a second. And we can now carefully reattach the antennas. There's one. And the second. Just carefully turn those around so they line up. And you can see that not only have we got it repaired so that the antenna stays vertical again, but we know 100% that the cable to the antenna is properly connected inside to the board. There must be dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of these Linksys boxes around where people have re-tightened up the nuts here, not realizing that our antenna is actually broken inside and are getting very, very bad performance from the unit. There we go, simple repair, job done.